This is Randy Hills. Today's show is dedicated to the memory of the founder of the Midnight Express. You will be hearing several times today the greatest tag team heel wrestler in the history of tag team wrestling. Dennis Condry, born on February the 1st, 1950, passed away on March the 20th, 2026, at age 76. He debuted in 1973, trained by his brother-in-law in North Carolina, Joe Turner. He made his debut in Memphis, Tennessee, at the Mid-South Coliseum as a single wrestler babyface on May the 12th, 1975. Again, this show dedicated to the memory of Dennis Condry, and we will discuss, look at video, and show pictures throughout this show today. And now we start today's edition of Talking Memphis Wrestling.
Talking Memphis Wrestling with Randy Hales is now streaming live on Fun Media at fun927.com and is always on Facebook, YouTube, X, Twitch, and at tv5wrestling.com.
Talking Memphis Wrestling with Randy Hales and special guests.
Welcome to the show tonight, everybody. It is the 24th day of the month, and we're ready to get it going on Talking Memphis Wrestling. Big show, loaded show. Some parts of the show will be sad tonight. We will go in depth about the career of Dennis Condry, who we lost late last week. Certainly one of the greatest tag team wrestlers of all time. If we have time, we will have part 2 of the Smoky Mountain USWA feud. Want to say hello to Calvin Lindsay Jr., Al Tuttle, Frank Seaton, and Thomas, and everybody that's watching here today. Big show tonight. We're really looking forward to it. And right now, to start off, we will go to Kansas City, Missouri. Or it could be Kansas City, Kansas, PJ. I don't know where Birmingham, Alabama, Pat Trammell is. He's Kansas City somewhere. As he does his first take today, let's welcome to the show, Mr. Pat Trammell.
Well, hello, Randy, and hello, everybody. Great to see you. I'm coming at you from my phone. Actually, I believe technically I'm in Overland Park, Kansas. But anyway, as I'm wont to do, I'm staying in a 25-year-old Hilton property at a trade show today. So, but it's really good to see everybody. Glad to have our panel on today. You know, Randy, I guess my first take is a couple of things. Obviously, we're all sad to lose, one more of the people that we grew up watching. I remember Dennis Condry in the Goulas territory in Birmingham, in the mid 70s. And, he was an accomplished wrestler in the ring, even in those days. And I think most of us have been on the journey of the Midnight Express. The thing, and look, it's hard to lose our heroes, and we all feel a day older and a day closer to, the end of our time on this earth, every time we lose somebody like that. But the thing that I'm really, really, really happy about is, Dennis Condrey was not Ric Flair. He was not Jerry Lawler. He was not Dusty Rhodes. He was not somebody that was going to headline for Vince. But the outpouring of respect for his abilities in the ring, and what an outstanding professional athlete and professional wrestler in every way that Dennis was. And I posted on X a match in Watts territory after the Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express went to Houston from Memphis, and there is a match between the Rock and Roll and the Midnights on there on YouTube, and if you can find it, watch it. I believe I posted on X that if I'm thankful to have been alive at a time when there was such fantastic wrestling. And that is one of the better matches I think you will ever see. Not a lot of yelling and screaming, just absolutely superior ring work. And again, I am thankful to the good Lord above that people are recognizing somebody like Dennis Condry, who was an absolute great technician in the ring. I mean, he was good out of the ring on the mic, but his ring work will live forever. And I'm very, very happy about that.
We'll have plenty of discussion for sure as we go along with Talking Memphis Wrestling today. We want to bring in for his first take, as we're having trouble with Michael being able to connect. He said he didn't have a link, so I've emailed it to him. And now we're going to go to first take time as we bring in the man from Jonesboro, Arkansas. He's now in Southside, Arkansas. He's a former coach. He is a former athletic director. He's just a troublemaker from day one. He is administrator with the Southside school system. He is Chris Ellis. Chris, your first take today.
Well, it's spring break, and so I've been able to spend some time preparing for the show and reviewing. I want to piggyback off of what Pat said. I heard Jim Cornette say today that Dennis was seamless. And I've always called this a work of art or a craft. And he was a craftsman, ultimate professional. And I've always called him the greatest tag team wrestler of all time, because I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I saw him work as a single once or twice. I don't recall, to be honest. But I loved Condry and Hickerson as a kid. And I followed him ever since, all the way through his career. And obviously the Midnight Express. And, of course, I'm involved in the sports world. Our people that see me on the show know I coached and was athletic director, and everybody plays the intro music. They say, oh, that's the Chicago Bulls. And I'm like, no, that's the Midnight Express. Chicago Bulls didn't start that till 1990. That theme song, you look for Dennis and Bobby when you hear that song. You don't look for Michael Jordan. So I want to say hi to everybody. A lot of people are saying hello. So, hey, everybody, good to see you. The biggest thing is, like Pat said, the profound respect people are showing. I think that's great. It's just awesome. And I encourage all the younger people out there, if you're involved in sports or you're involved in something that you really like, or there's people that you admire and respect, take the time to tell them, drop them a note, even if they're famous and they never respond. Because as I'll be 60 in September, and our heroes, they don't live forever. And when I think about now Dennis is gone, and the King's getting older, Superstars older, all those guys. I mean, we're all Father Time's undefeated. So those guys were bigger than life to me as a kid, and I am thankful that I got to live in the Memphis territory because it was magic in those days.
All right, first take time from Chris Ellis, and we started in Kansas City. Then we went to Arkansas. We're with Arkansas with me, and now we will go to Arab, Alabama. Arab, Alabama is the place where radio broadcasting and Memphis Wrestling Hall of Famer is located. He has been changing phones and changing services and not getting emails and not getting links, all kind of thing. But still, I think he's here earlier than he normally is. And that is a blessing and a pleasure. As today's show is dedicated to the memory of Dennis Condry, we'll get to the Smoky Mountain USWA Feud part number 2 if we have time, but we want to bring in for his first take is Michael said freaking John.
Hey guys. Hey, thank you, Randy. I appreciate it. First take is simply this, and I'm just going to echo. I was thinking about it earlier today, and I think Coach just did a fabulous job of saying exactly what needs to be said, not only at a time like this, but in our lifetimes, because so much of our past disappears so quickly and it slides right through your fingers. And I think, when I look on the last 90 days, the last 6 months that we've had things happen with our friends and our acquaintances and people that are very close to us, it really gives you an outlook on life that's a little bit different. And as you get older, I know we have a 19-year-old adopted daughter that's in college, and right now she's going through some hard knocks of trying to teach her responsibility, and she's having to feel rather tough love. And you get that when you're younger, and you don't think about the way life is, that there's a beginning and an end. You think you're going to be here forever, and all your friends are going to be here forever, and your family's going to be here forever, and you're insulated. And as you get old, those layers of insulation go away, and then you find yourself out there uninsulated, out there as a standalone human being, and you have to rely on your family and your faith and the way you were raised, the foundation you were given in life. And I think, and Dennis died less than 20 miles from where I live. And I had seen him back, probably this time last year. As most of you know, he had throat cancer. He had beat it, but had a hole in had his esophagus, had a where your Adam's apple is, your vocal cords, had them removed, had a hole right here, and talked with what is called a vocoder. And the last time I talked to him, and it's difficult. I mean, you have to listen to hear what the person is saying, but he had a lot of spirit and a lot of gusto and a lot of love and that's what the great vibe of Dennis Condry was. We can talk about him all show, about his wrestling abilities and what he did and what he accomplished. And really, I think Coach will admit to this, and I think we all will admit to this. Dennis Condry is sort of an unsung star in this business, and he was always an anchor. Earlier, I had to talk with someone and about Dennis today, and the thing about that always got me about Dennis Condry is no matter what the situation is, you always knew what to expect with Dennis, whether in the locker room or in the ring, you knew what you were getting. And I think that's a great mark. That's a great legacy to leave. And that is the legacy of being you. And if there's anything I can say to the audience and to the folks that are watching and listening tonight, is the best thing you can do with your life is love your kids, love your faith, and be yourself.
First take time, Michael St. John, appreciate it very much. I am out of focus, and I will fix that right now with our producer, Adam Dunn. There's things Adam says that he can do, and he has disasters going on production-wise. And so if you can do this, Adam, start with the Dennis Condry pictures, and we will go through those pictures and one right after another. And again, send me a private chat if you cannot do that. And it starts with 5420, Adam. And again, let's check with Adam. Cannot see him, so that is good to know. And so again, this show today is dedicated to the memory of Dennis Condrey. He was born a heel, no doubt about it. Even though his first match ever in Memphis was in May of 1975. It was a debut night for the Mongolian Stomper. Mongolian Stomper, unique way to get over. First weekend in all the towns, they booked Archie Gordy, the Mongolian Stomper, with two opponents. One of them, and they were both single matches. The first one in May at the Mid-South Coliseum was Jerry Bryant, who later became Memphis Vice. The second one was Dennis Condrey making his debut at the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis, Tennessee. Now, again, wanted to go ahead and repeat the fact that Dennis was born on February the 1st, 1950. He passed away March 20th, 2026, a few days ago at age 76. For those of you that listen and those that you don't, make sure you check out the Jim Cornette Experience, who did a heartfelt, fantastic show covering his relationship and the career of Dennis Condrey that was very good. Dennis was trained in the Carolinas by his brother-in-law, Joe Turner. Again, he debuted in May the 12th at the Mid-South Coliseum against the Stomper. And then starting in 1976, he teamed with the great Phil Hickerson that formed just a great tag team, no doubt about it, as we go through these pictures. So as we go through a few of those pictures right now, and then this next one, and I like this. Pat, isn't that a cool looking Midnight Express jacket? Have you ever seen that? As apparently, Pat, are you there?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I tried to get on my other computer and it didn't work, so I got off and got back on, and it says camera access not granted. Fix it. And I'm not sure how to do.
All right, Michael,
I
we'll
guess
go right
not.
with you. That great picture that we had up there. Have you ever seen that good-looking jacket?
I've actually seen that picture with that jacket and those boots, the boots that he's holding. I love this. I love the picture to the right. That's the latest picture that I had seen with Dennis, where he's giving the peace sign. And you know, I was thinking, I have not listened to Jimmy Cornette's Experience. I did have a talk today with Tony Richards, and he did a fabulous job. If you get a chance to read what he wrote about Dennis, a very historical piece, but a very, very well done, very well researched. But when you think about the Midnight Express and Jimmy Cornette, and I think when people think of Dennis Condrey, they're going to think of the Midnight Express because that was the biggest stage he ever got on. But I think when you look back at it from a Memphis standpoint, from our standpoint in the South and Mid-South Wrestling and the Gulas Welch territory, I remember him very fondly with Phil Hickerson. And when I first went to work doing play-by-play for Nick Gulas in 1978, Dennis and Phil Hickerson came to town. I'm not sure of the timeline. I remember it was early on. I don't know if it was 78 or 79, maybe even 80. But Dennis was a very, and I didn't know either gentleman when I met him the first time in the locker room. And Dennis and I, we were able to hit it off really well. Phil was a little bit more countrified. And, I like Phil Hickerson and would never say anything bad about him, but I didn't get as close and talk as personal one-on-one about other things other than wrestling with Phil. Whereas Dennis could talk. He could talk about the world events. He could talk about politics. He could talk about women. He could talk about anything you wanted to talk about. But I think the picture on the right in his latter years, in his latter stage of life, really shows the personality. He was the first wrestler, Randy, I ever worked with that wore a knee brace in every match. And it was more than a gimmick with Dennis. So he was the first person I ever worked with that actually wore a knee brace in the ring.
Next picture, and this is a heartfelt picture, and this is a picture, and I believe I was at this event in Nashville at a Comic-Con. This is Dennis, Jim Cornette, Bobby Eaton, the original. No, not, that's wrong to say the original version of the Midnight Express. Dennis was a founder with Randy Rhoads and Norvell Austin. Here is the most successful version, Dennis Condry and Bobby Eaton, with Stacy Cornette and Teresa. So, Chris, that's just a great picture there.
Yeah, it's a great picture. I've not seen that picture before. But the picture that before that where Dennis giving the peace sign, he was looking good. He was in good physical shape and looking good. Looked like he was happy and doing well. So it's hard to see our legendary figures get older, and glad to have the Comic-Cons and things like that so they can receive their just due from the fans, and the fans in turn get to talk to their heroes. So I'm glad they have those things still.
Now posted in the Huntsville area, at the Huntsville area newspaper or funeral home, and this was posted. And Michael, if you can read what's on the screen now, that graphic, can you read?
Sure,
read that?
Sure. This is Berry Hill Funeral Home. It's on North Parkway in Huntsville, out by Alabama A&M. In fact, my son Cody is a police officer of that northern precinct, and carries, in fact, will do funeral processions at times with Berry Hill. Several of my family members have been buried through Berry Hill Funeral Home, rather. And it says Dennis Condry, February 1st, 1950, March 20th, 2026. Dennis Noel Condry, 76 of Huntsville, passed away on March 20th of 2026, which was last Friday. No services are planned at this time. Berry Hill Funeral Home is assisting the family, and then there's a guest book. I do understand that there is a GoFundMe page, and I think one of Dax, I think of that tag team with AEW set it up. Yeah, yes. Set it up. And there is a GoFundMe for funeral expenses, and so I would think that probably Dennis did not have the wherewithal for a pre-planned funeral. So you can make a donation in his name through that. Berry Hill is one of 3 very, very good funeral homes in the Huntsville area, and I thought they did a very nice job of that. I'm very anxious to see what kind of services it ends up being as a memorial to Dennis.
And Jim Cornette in his podcast today, as they've talked and said, this is a legit fundraiser, and Cornette is hesitant on plugging them. Harwood set that thing up, and basically Cornette didn't mention any service at all. So basically, he said Dennis's best wish would be his biggest thing that he would hope to happen is that his lovely wife Teresa would be taken care of. And I think, for one thing, I think that's what that is designed to be. And Cornette didn't say anything about services coming up because that's as we get older, health costs and funeral costs, Chris, is one thing we all have to, and insurance costs. We all have to deal with. And I know you lost your mother last year. It's just something we're all going to pass away, but it doesn't make it any easier knowing that when somebody you love so much. And certainly, everybody, if you feel like going, it's not a scam. The GoFundMe that Dax Harwood of FDR put out, and Tommy Don, sizable donation, Chris Jericho, sizable donation, so has so many. And I don't know, Chris, if you look much on Twitter, the response from the wrestling world has been tremendous.
Yeah, I've reposted, I don't know, maybe 100 things that different people have posted, and then I put out my own as well. And there's been lots of discussion among wrestling fans, but when we refer to him as the greatest tag team wrestler of all time, people that didn't grow up in the South may not agree. But I had a discussion with a guy today on private message, like he's from up north. And I said, well, Bruiser and Crusher, for example, the people working in the factory in Milwaukee may have identified with that. But every raw bone country boy from Arkansas down to the Florida Panhandle to the Everglades to the Carolinas identified with Phil Hickerson and Dennis Condry. Beer drinking, fighting, hell raising, tough guys. And so the following and that concept was part of it. On the other side of that, if you have an appreciation for the actual skill involved in wrestling, he was just excellent. Professional at the highest level. So there's a lot of integral parts to that. Depending on what conversation you're in, he's worthy of praise, whatever it is.
No doubt about it. And want to go to Kansas or to Missouri or wherever he is. And I think we have audio only. But Pat, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here, Randy, and I can see myself on here, but I don't. I mean, that's fine. I mean, it's fine that I don't do it. But, to follow up on what Chris said, I consider Hickerson and Condry one of the very underrated tag teams, and I consider them basically the heirs to the Greens as a tag team. That's who that reminds me of. But I would encourage everybody who loves wrestling and loves Memphis wrestling to there I am. I would encourage everybody to watch some of Dennis Condry and Phil Hickerson, some of those matches, and also some of the Midnight Express matches, which I've been doing for the last 24 hours. I'm here in a hotel room, and I'm at a telecom conference, so I've got to work the floor and man a booth and all that. And I've been coming up here doing that. And this is the thing that I have learned in sitting watching Dennis Condrey wrestle. He had absolutely great technical matches with everybody. That guy would have had a great technical match with Andy Kaufman. And if you love the art of professional wrestling, and I don't mean that in a flippant way, I mean, if you like to watch people go at it and work at their craft, spend an hour tonight on YouTube watching every version of Dennis Condry that you can watch. And I'm just, as this, and it's a shame, but as this has unfolded, it's given me the opportunity to really appreciate a master craftsman. Really, really has. And I'm thankful for that.
Great words, and stay with us, and we'll see a lot of great stuff. And I want to open our video part of the show today, and we have some very interesting stuff we are going to show. A 2-minute, 26-second highlight right now. This is from 1975. It's Bill Dundee and Tojo Yamamoto against Phil Hickerson and Dennis Condry. As we watch
Bill Dundee, kicked off of there by Phil. As Dundee, who has been rattled around in pretty good fashion by the champions, Condrey and Hickerson, reversed it with a flying press off the turnbuckle. But he needs, in a desperate way, to get a tag on Tojo Yamamoto right now. Oh, the big elbow from Condrey. Condrey, sensing a victory, is hurled off right into referee Jerry Calhoun. Big broad arm by Phil Hickerson. There's a tag on Tojo. The referee still down. Tojo nails Condrey, nails Hickerson. Yamamoto with Condrey into it. Puts him down on a canvas. Tags Bill Dundee. Dundee over the top rope. Rolls him down. 2, 3, he beat him. Bill Dundee, Tojo.
That's the first time in my life I've ever seen Tojo Yamamoto, Michael, jump over the top rope.
USWA Southern Tag Championship belt.
He had quite a lift on that, too. It's the first time I've seen him dance, that little happy dance he's done in a long time. Brings back great memories.
Possession, and once again, Billy Dundee and Tojo Yamamoto are co-holders of the title. They held it separately with other partners, but this is the first time that Dundee and Yamamoto have in themselves captured the NWA Southern Tag Championship. Big Ben and Yamamoto and Dundee have upset Phil Hickerson and Dennis Condrey. The time, 24 minutes, 25 seconds, 24-25. Dundee and Yamamoto, the champions. This is Lance Russell from the Memphis Mid-South Coliseum.
Tojo must have ate his Wheaties that day. He jumped over the freaking top rope. He was smiling and hugging and all kinds of stuff. Tojo, have you ever seen him like that, Michael?
Very rarely. Very
Maybe
rarely.
in the dressing room.
Well, true, but they had to put up $5,000 to get that tag match or that championship match. I think was the stip on that.
Right.
Stipulation was they put up $5,000 versus the title, and they won the title. And Tojo's holding the money. Tojo always held the money.
So, Chris, your thoughts of that 2-minute video with Hickerson and Condry? I wish I could have found more. The other one that I could find was from Southeastern Ron Fuller, but certainly I've tried not to show other promotions video here. Your thoughts on that match we just saw?
Well, I mean, you got 4 elite talents, 4 great workers, and then Dennis selling those chops. Dennis is 6'2", 250, and Tojo's chopping him, and he's hitting the mat at lightning speed. And then the roll up, the roll up by Dundee, and Calhoun's count was like 1.5, to make sure the baby faces won. The other thing I thought of doesn't have anything to do with Dennis. That's the shortest tag team champions in the history of Memphis. Combined height, right at 10 feet, maybe. 10 feet.
If they stood on each other's shoulder, could they be as tall as Andre the Giant?
Oh, no.
Yeah. No.
Oh, maybe. Pat, your thoughts on that match, Hickerson and Condry, and I wish there was more of a video.
You know, I just you know, reiterate what Chris said. That's just four great craftsmen in the ring right there. And you know, and it's not that it's 40 years ago. It's just those guys were so great at what they did.
Pat, I hate to correct you, but 50 years ago.
50 years ago, yeah.
50 years ago. Hey, Randy, I got a question. Because Bill worked with Dennis so much when he went to Louisiana and Bill was booking, you think it gave him an advantage on how to use him because he knew him so well from working with him?
Yeah, but it's Bill Watts made that choice because he came to the Mid-South Coliseum one Monday night and looked at the talent, and at that time, Dennis and Bobby were not tag teaming, and Jim Cornette was underneath manager, and what Jerry Jarrett did was send Cornette out 5 or 6 times during the night to spotlight him, because to tell you the truth, Jerry Jarrett was trying to get rid of Cornette because Walter had on Walter had Pat off, and Pat is in a motel, and obviously we had issues with cameras and certainly others, and so Pat, if you can hear me and try to get back in on here, and I think Michael had something to say.
I think Coach made a great point. I think the one thing that when you watch Dennis Condry, and that I remember so greatly, he could sell and would sell. He would sell from the moment he came out of the locker room to the minute he went back through that door. I mean, he sold everything. He sold coming down the aisle. He sold getting into the ring. He sold in the match. I mean, the man really took it to heart. And you mentioned Joe Turner. If I'm not mistaken, Joe Turner is Mickey Hendry that ended up with a promotion here in Boaz in Alabama for many, many years because he wrestled as Joe Turner for Nick Goulas. I guess it's the same guy. But just watching that little clip, and I know it's not a lot, but just watching that clip, I think you learn a lot about Hickerson and Condry. You saw, I know Tojo and Dundee were shined in that match, but Hickerson and Condry, what a great tag team. Great tag team.
Now, I think most people, Chris, you will like where I'm going with this. Okay. Because most people, when you think about a Dennis Condry team, you would first of all think about the tag team with Phil Hickerson. You would also obviously think about the first Midnight Express with Randy Rose and Norvell Austin. You would think more than anything, the tag team he had with Bobby Eaton, many say the best heel tag team on the face of the earth. Dennis was so good. I'm not going to introduce this video. I'm just going to play it because I can tell you right now, this shows Dennis with another tag team, and this shows Dennis doing a promo and Dennis having a personality. This video is 6 minutes and 58 seconds. Again, I'm not going to introduce it. I'm just going to play it.
Okay, Dave, we are going to get Handsome Jimmy and Steve Regal out here for a little conversation.
Look at us, Daddy. You know what today is? You know what this is? Come on, celebrate. Look here.
Dennis Condry and David Schultz, another great tag team partner.
Happy anniversary Dr. D and Mr. C.
Ain't it
What
beautiful
is
here,
that?
Russell? Come right on over
1
here.
year what? Out of
1 year we
jail
been
for
together.
assault?
We're
Listen,
gonna have
will
a
you
party.
guys wait, please?
Don't you want to be in our party?
No, your interview comes up later. Hey, come on. Get the cake. Listen, we'll have
This
it.
cake angle was
This is
first done in
Kansas
Chattanooga
Jimmy
at Channel
Simon,
3
Steve Regal.
with Cornette and
None of the cake.
one of
You can have a
Coach's
piece of
favorite
cake if you want.
wrestlers, and Bobby Fulton.
1 year. Look at it.
Chris, we were talking about the cake angle earlier.
Yes, sir.
No.
Oh, you don't want to bite of my cake? Well, you can't have none
Will
either.
you wait?
Yeah, this is-
We're celebrating our great.
I love Dr. D
in
too.
1
So.
year, man, undefeated. I'll tell you one thing.
I told you you'd like this segment.
Oh yeah.
Oh, darn.
I didn't know if you was going to show this or the one where he calls Robert Gibson googly eye. That cracks me up. When he said that on the
We
interview.
have beat Steve Regal, and you come out here telling me that you want them out here. We're the champions.
This is around 1980 because that's the story I was telling you about David Schultz knocking Ronnie Wade down. He looked just like that.
Mike's asking if Dr. D was really crazy like a fox and a tough son of a gun. Frank says great suits from the 70s. Now let's watch the angle.
Okay. Let me get him out of here. I know, Steve, but wait. Listen.
What is this?
Hey.
What is this, LR? Is this Welcome Wagon or is this the PTA?
Look,
We don't have to take this,
hey,
Lance.
well,
Something
go back
Condry.
to the dressing room and wait, will you?
We're celebrating.
Something Condry, this time belongs to me, Handsome Jimmy and Bird Dog. This time is not for sale.
Okay.
We'll buy this time
get
right here.
both
We
of
got
you
the money,
on.
baby.
Hey, come on.
If you two hogs want to slop that cake down, that's your business. But you're not slopping that cake down on my time. LR, I think these two hogs need a little help.
Chris, you mentioned the date, and this is February of 1980.
Okay. I knew it had to be around that time because that's what they looked like that night in Jonesboro.
Hey, come on, Jim. Eddie. Hey, Eddie. Come on, Harry.
Lance hollered for Eddie. That's a rite of passage.
Eddie, can you get him out of here? Hey, come on, Jimmy. Hey, come on. Look, hey, come on. Get him out. Eddie. Get him out of here. Hey, come
Stop
on.
it up! Sue it! Pig!
Please, thank you.
Boy, did the people ever pop on that.
Yeah, it's a can't miss deal.
Thank you, Eddie.
Absolutely great segment.
The,
That shows the personality
handsome Jimmy
of
is-
Dennis Condry.
God, the opportunity can't pass without saying that I hope you guys enjoy the cake. I will have to at least pass that comment along.
Look
You,
at me, Lance Russell.
I see, Dennis, you ought to go get cleaned up in there. You and David both need to go get cleaned up in there and get it out of your hair. But I told you it was later. If you'd have just stayed back and waited in there, you would have had the opportunity later on.
Let me tell you something, Lance. And I want you to listen to me. And I want you people out there, you laugh. You sit back and laugh. You look at us. You laugh at us. Enjoy yourself. But I'm going to tell you something, and this is to you, Valiant. And you, Regal. You done let Jimmy Valiant get yourself in something you can't get out of. You see these belts here, Lance? You see them? I'm going to make you a promise that Jimmy Valiant and Steve Regal, that if one of you men, or both of you, if you're not carried back, we will hand you these belts. We will never We'll never show our face in Memphis, Tennessee again. We'll never show our face in Louisville, Kentucky. We'll never show our face nowhere, Lance Russell. Nowhere in the South, nowhere. We're through. We'll burn our boots in the middle of the ring. Regal, it's to you and Valiant. Hey, this is sickening, man. This is sickening.
Oh, yeah, okay. You guys go get
You
cleaned
guys,
up.
you know you can't beat us in a wrestling match because you've tried too many times. So you come out here and you want to humiliate us. Okay, you've done that. You have humiliated us far beyond what you should have done, boys. So let me say this. If you want to do a little humiliation, Daddy, we'll see who can do it. Next time we step in the ring with you, Valiant, I'm pointing this directly at you because the other boy don't know exactly what he's getting into. I guarantee you one thing. This is a promise. This is not a threat. One of you will not walk back from that ring on your own free will. You will be carried away in a stretcher. That's a promise to both of us.
David, let
If
you
not, you'll never see us again, Lance Russell.
Okay, fine.
We will personally hand you these belts, and we will never, like I said, never wrestle.
Okay, David. I guess the best thing to do is while we get some of this cleaned up here, is we'll take a break, and we'll be back with you in just a moment.
The disgust on, I love that. I could watch Lance do that so perfectly. The disgust of, that's good. That's really good.
You know, what I liked about that is sometimes when you embarrass the heels, you got to be careful without taking the heat off. However, the intensity in both David Schultz and Dennis Condry and the seriousness and saying what they were going to do to Valiant and Steve Regal the next week, they didn't lose a speck of heat. And I think that strong promo, they had more heat going into that than going out of that than going into it. And certainly I didn't think they lost any heat at all. And I thought that, especially, we know David Schultz, great promo. I think what hurts Dennis Condry in fans' eyes so many years, Jim Cornette was the talker of the group. Now, Cornette, the first to say that the ring general of the group was Dennis Condry. And I think Bobby Eaton would say that. That was just a perfect team. And unfortunately, we don't have any of that video. But again, that was just a great thing. And Dennis, and do you remember the Dennis Condry, David Schultz tag team, Michael?
Yes, I do. I worked with it. I actually called some matches with them in Nashville and on the bicycle with them. And the beauty of that was Condry, he's just like a coach said it earlier, he's a barroom brawler. I mean, and David Schultz is just a good old redneck boy that'll kick your ass. That's the only way you can put it. And that team, and if I'm not mistaken, that team broke up when Schultz left to go to New York in the early 80s, before the mid 80s, because he was one of the early folks that went into the WWE at that when it first started ramping up.
I think he went around 1983.
80. I was thinking that same year too, Randy. I was thinking that same year.
In 1980 certainly was where this video came from. It was February of 1980. Thoughts on the cake angle there, Chris?
Well, you and I talked earlier about the first time we saw it done and who had done it and where they got the idea and so on. But I told you the story off air earlier about the only time I was ever close to Dennis Condry, and I was legitimately scared of David Schultz as a kid. But in the new building at Jonesboro, I was talking to the security guard who you and I knew, and Condry and Schultz had walked in down the hallway out to close to where the metal chairs were on the floor, and a guy came up and confronted Dr. D, and he threw his bag to me and said, "Here, kid, hold this." And he proceeds to knock him down and knock down about 3 rows of folding chairs. I was standing next to the police officer, and Dennis Condry. Of course, I mean, I'm standing there. I'm sure my eyes were this big around because I thought Schultz was the meanest guy on the planet. Condry was tough as crap because I'd watched him with Hickerson my whole childhood. So, I mean, I was a big Condry fan. So it was a thrill to stand there. But at the same time, I was intimidated as well.
We're going to go back and try because Pat is still online with us, but we had we started having a buzz, or how would you describe that feedback we were getting on Pat earlier, Michael? How, as a radio guy, what was going on there? Do you have any idea?
Miserable is how I would say it. It was when you hear something like that. That's why I was pointing in my headphones. That's devastating. But it's definitely in a connection. That's a connection problem right there.
So
I'm just glad Pat's still with us.
He's in Kansas, and we are going to try to get him on the air. We were, because when I was checking, he was still on, but he is not on now as well. So 1975, as we are doing a tribute, and we're speaking of Loverboy Dennis Condry today on this edition. In this show, we are proud and honored to dedicate this program tonight to the memory of Dennis Condry, the founder of the Midnight Express. Dennis made his debut in Memphis in 1975 and then started later that year in 75. Hickerson and Condry against Dundee and Tojo. We saw that. We saw the action from February 1980 with Schultz and Condry and that anniversary. We saw that. Now we're going to skip a little bit to November the 30th, 1981. Now, the original version of the Midnight Express was called Midnight Express Incorporated, and they started in the Gulf Coast area for Southeastern Championship Wrestling, Pensacola and Birmingham and all those towns down there, Mobile, Alabama. They were a three-man team with Freebird rules. There's three of them together, and then match time, they would decide who of the three, which two would be in there for the match. This is very interesting because we know how much money in the future Dennis Condry, Michael, and Chris drew with Ricky Morton. So we're going to show a match right now, and I want to make sure we get this right. This is November the 30th, 1981. This is the tag team of the Midnight Express, and I think it's Randy Rose and Dennis Condry against the tag team that later on in later years, they were both second generation wrestling people. This is a match, 10 minutes, 56 seconds. Our microphones will be hot as we can walk through it and talk through it. This should be a great match. The Midnight Express against Eddie Gilbert and Ricky Morton on Talking.
Why is the fight champion not being turned? Tell me what he is.
I'm sure that when you put in enough time that you have a
we got two boys that's pretty capable up here. We gonna show y'all what
That's
it's all
more
about.
about lost than doing talking, Michael.
The Midnight Express going against at a total weight of 412 pounds from Lexington, Tennessee, Eddie Gilbert, and from Nashville, Tennessee, Rick Morton. One fall, 15-minute time limit match. The referee is Jerry Calhoun. And we should explain for those that haven't seen the Midnight Express before, there are three of them. Two of them will be wrestling, and Austin looks like will be outside in an advisor manager role. Well done, and here we go. Yeah, Big Dennis Condry, the biggest of the three. Midnight Express starting out against Rick Morton. Morton off the ropes, good shoulder butt.
This may be the first time of 10,000 that he was in the ring with Ricky Morton.
But he couldn't make it stick. Rick Morton makes the tag, and it's Eddie Gilbert. Again, Condry went for reversal. Pulling tight that time.
Eddie and Rick were really young at this point. They were still teenagers, weren't they?
Absolutely. I think Eddie probably debuted late 78, early 79, and Rick Morton, same deal, both of them very, very young. I think Eddie was born in either 1960 or 1961, if memory serves me correct. Look how good both of these guys are as we speak of the second generation handling in the ring. Rick Morton both doing very good. Your thoughts on this version of the Midnight Express? Michael, we'll go with you first.
Well, it was very in its infancy, and for what it became later on, I think this was just the building blocks, the foundation of it. Midnight Express. You got to realize when they named the move or the team, the Midnight Express, there was a popular movie out. I don't know if it won any Academy Awards. I think actually it did. Called The Midnight Express, which was about an American that was trapped in the Middle East. And in fact, I want to say Turkey. And it was a very intense movie. And the Midnight Express name, I think, was borrowed from that because this was an intense tag team.
What's your thoughts on this?
No, I never did know. I mean, I always liked Norvell and Dennis, obviously. Randy Rose, I don't know that he brought anything different to the team. I thought he was okay. He never did talk or say anything much. But I thought he was okay. Obviously not near on Bobby Eaton's level. But I always liked Norvell and Dennis.
We're 2 minutes and 30 seconds into this one. 2 minutes, 30 seconds gone. Norvell Austin doing some really vocal cheering. Ooh, what a shot from Randy Rose. Eddie Gilbert hanging back close to the rope.
No offense to Randy Rose, but I always thought Pat Rose was the better of the two.
Let him have it with a couple of right hands.
Pat was very good.
Is Pat kin to Randy Rose? I thought that was just his working name.
No,
Randy Rose was just his working name.
I think they were kin. In fact, if not brothers, cousins. I always thought there was a kinship there. I may be wrong.
Hit hard on his shoulder too, Dave. That's the way you separate those shoulders. Condry in there now against Rick Morton.
Did Joe Turner train anyone else besides Dennis?
Just his brother-in-law did.
He did a good job.
Dennis is so good. I mean, he was a veteran of the Midnight Express.
Body slam on Rick Morton. Dennis Condry follows up. More legs. Cover. 1, 2 count. Rick Morton able to break it at that point.
I want to share a little thing about Dennis Condry. Dennis was always a very, I won't say cynical, but he was a very serious kind of guy. Except for, and he would lighten up. We were doing a match in Chattanooga. It was during the time that Harry Thornton had his heart attack, and I was going down and doing the Channel 12 show with Nick Goulis. And we would stay over. The Channel 12 show would be over at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and there would be a Saturday night show that night at the auditorium downtown. And I think it was the Chattanooga Memorial Auditorium or City Auditorium in Chattanooga. Oh, there's Norvell with the interference. But it was a pretty high, it was pretty big crowd, pretty hot night. Everybody was in a good mood. Well, I went at the end of the night. All the boys were getting ready to go home, and I was changing out of my shoes to get my suit off so I could get in more comfortable clothes to drive home. for the ride home to Nashville. I couldn't find my shoes. And I'm like, well, I put them right over here. Couldn't find my shoes. So nobody stooged off anything. Well, needless to say, I left the arena barefoot, or sock-footed, I might say. Had no idea who. I knew somebody pulled the trick. All right, somebody was ribbing. I just didn't know who. And the least likely, I thought, would have been Dennis, you know, because I knew Bobby and some of the other boys better. Wednesday night, we come to the taping in Nashville. I go into the locker room to get some information. Dennis reaches in his bag and says, "Hey, I found these in Chattanooga." And somebody said they were yours. I was like, "You son of a gun." But he was a master ribber. And I don't know if people know that about him or not, but he was a master.
Watching him in the ring, he's just so good. No wasted motion at all. As this is a hell of a competitive match, guys, for television. This is good.
You know, it seems like every Memphis TV in those days had a exemplary match every Saturday. It would be something like this literally every Saturday.
He really just slammed him down.
He had great instincts, just like letting Eddie grab his trunks and fall back right there, just letting all that happen organically. Just adds so much to that.
I would point out they haven't been able to pin him yet, though, as Eddie Gilbert is still fighting back, but he is getting progressively worse.
He's headed for the corner. Rick trying to help out, but Eddie can't make it. Condry grabs him. 7.5 minutes gone. We're halfway through it. Time limit is 15.
Still line for Lance Russell. They're beating the stew out of Eddie Gilbert.
Absolutely. The corner. Can't find the corner. Leading from the fourth. Ricky in there. He nails Condry, but off the ropes comes Randy Rose. Eddie swinging at the air.
It's pure instinct right now because he is some kind of a mess.
All right. Tommy, his dad comes in, throws in a towel. Tommy Gilbert has thrown in a towel. It's going to be it.
Referee Jerry Calhoun stopping the match at the request of Eddie's dad, who came in and pitched the towel in there. Eddie just was, boy. It's going to be a win for the Midnight Express.
Yeah.
Trying to help Eddie back to the dressing room in there.
Here's Tommy.
Yeah.
I'd just like to say one thing, man. I don't usually butt into Eddie's business because this is a competitive sport. But this, they've got no business. Man, they wouldn't even try to pin him at all. Why didn't they try to put his shoulders down? They had him hurt. I'm not saying whether it is because he's man. I'm talking about Rick or anybody else. They got no business. Cheats like this has got no business in this profession. I'll guarantee you.
Let me tell you one thing. What you doing out here? You weren't signed in that match. What you doing out here, man? What business have you got dipping into the Midnight Express's business?
Hey, I'll dip anywhere I want to whenever there's somebody like this that's concerned where it's part of me, brother.
You got a mama's baby, I see, ain't you? A mama's baby. You got to put him on the back all the time. I'll tell you what, if you bad,
I'll tell you what,
if you bad,
he's as much of a damn man as anybody else around here.
If you bad, won't you sign a match? Take your punk kid and sign a contract against me and my men. If you bad, I'll tell you, we bad. It ain't nobody bad like us. It ain't nobody bad like us. But we go. We fuck all the way out. We fuck it. Yeah.
I'd ask you one question. I wonder, like Tommy, why they didn't make an effort to pin him when they had him in there. They just pounded on him and pounded.
Chris, what did you think about that?
Oh, it was really good. in my head, I was thinking this is the match where Tommy comes out and throws in the towel. And then finally, I wasn't 100% sure, but I thought it was just from my memory of watching it years ago. But, I mean, Dennis is just excellent. And like the timing and like I said earlier, the instincts to let it kind of play out. To me, that's a knack. I mean, just a inherent skill. I mean, I know they're trained and I know they got time in the ring to develop all that. But some of it's just you got more talent than other people. And he did.
Michael, your thoughts of the Midnight Express against Rick Morton and Eddie Gilbert? I enjoyed that match.
Well, it was great. Like I said, there was a highlight match at every Memphis show. That was a part of the charm or the beauty of Memphis wrestling. You know, the thing I thought about while I was watching it is I was watching Dennis specifically, and whether he was with Hickerson or whether he was with Eaton or whether he was with Randy Rose, like I said when we opened the show, he was true to himself. He was always Dennis Condry. What you saw of Dennis Condry in that tag team match is the same Dennis Condry you saw in the others. So I think that's a testament to his career.
We were talking about Dennis Condry today, and we will end up at the end of the show saying our best memories of Dennis Condry. And again, this show is dedicated. However, we didn't have Chris on the show last week, and we didn't have Michael on the show last week, and we did a very interesting picture segment. I don't do this much, where I go back and show a group of pictures 2 weeks in a row, and we want to go through this. Again, we'll be back with the Dennis Condry part of the story in a little bit, but I think you will be interested, especially you, Michael. Chris, I think you watched the show because you fussed at me in a text message about somebody that I put on the television show on the show last week. Anyway,
I've forgotten.
You might have texted me.
I did. I was watching the show last week, and I texted you. I don't remember fussing at you.
You said something about somebody was on the show, and it's somebody. We won't get into that.
Okay.
Right now. But right now, Michael St. John, I think, and Chris Ellis, I think. This is Randy Hills of Talking Memphis Wrestling. Chris Ellis and Michael St. John. So, Michael, this picture. Is this not one of the youngest looking Jackie Fargo pictures? And man, he looks, I don't know what he looks like, but he looks like a go-getter, executive. He looks good in this picture. This, the fabulous Jackie Fargo. Quick thoughts.
I'm not so sure this isn't the senior picture out of his annual. It's an Olin Mills photography. I mean, Olin Mills took these. Everybody back from the 50s and 60s have these. There's ones of me when I was a little kid. But that's dapper is the way I would describe that. The fabulous Jackie Fargo.
Chris, real quick thoughts on this picture.
Oh, yeah. He looks the part, the fabulous part. He's dressed to the nines. Hair slicked back, looking good.
Now, we're going to show several pictures. And, Michael, you're going to have to help me here because we can point out Jackie Fargo. We will see Sonny Fargo or Roughhouse Fargo, and we'll also see Don Fargo. I don't know if this is Don or Sonny.
That's Don. That's Don. Absolutely. That's Don Fargo. And if I'm not mistaken, this was in the TV studios at Channel 8 in Nashville, Tennessee, of them coming out. And they always, boy, you talk about the robes and the flashiness. I always like the newborn baby, the singlet, and they look like the New Year's baby when they'd come out. But those are the fabulous Fargos, and fabulous indeed.
All right. This is definitely Don and Jackie Fargo. Another great picture when they were world champion. This is a picture with Jackie Fargo and the interns. I think this is Jim Starr. Could be Tom Andrews, but that's a great picture of Jackie Fargo and the interns. Jackie Fargo, Jerry Jarrett, and Tojo drew a lot of money together. Here's your guy, Michael St. John. Here is not so. When you talk about Jackie Fargo and tag team partners, George Gulas and the Memphis end would never be mentioned. However, on the Nashville, Chattanooga, Birmingham end, I'm sure Fargo teamed with George a bunch.
He did, and helped train him for that matter. But George looks in great shape there. I mean, and George was a sort of a lanky as he grew into his physique. He was sort of a lanky person at first, but then grew into it. But that's a great picture of both of them. I would dare say that's probably Nashville.
Well, I know it's blasphemy because I'm on the Memphis end, but now I was told that George Gulas was a pretty good basketball player.
True.
He was athletic enough to be a good basketball player, so he wasn't like a total klutz.
No, he was a good. He could shoot. I mean, and we did a lot of at Kicks 104. We did a lot of dirty dribblers. That was our nickname, the Dirty Dribbler basketball, to raise money for bands and cheerleaders and all. We did one year between November and maybe early April. I think we did 28 or 29 dates and raised about $100,000 for all the charities that we were doing it for. And we'd play the teachers or play the band or play, they'd have an alumni group or whatever. And George would play. We did rock and wrestling with him on many occasions. And George would play in the game and then would wrestle in the mat, on the card. But you could set him up in the corner and feed him all night, and he could knock the lights out of it.
Next picture, and this is something we showed last week, and it's a quick little program, or this might be, I think Adam said last week that he thinks this is IA put together, and still that's a cool little thing, and that's Fargo and Gentleman's Saw. This next picture, we'll both like this one. This is the fabulous Jackie Fargo with the great Lance Russell. This is a younger Jackie putting his boots on. This is Jackie with Jerry Lawler, and this is not the greatest picture in the world. This is Jackie and who? Do you guys know?
Is this Mario Milano or is this one of the Japanese stars?
No, this is Rocky Johnson.
Oh, it is Rocky. I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell. Sorry about that.
How about this? This is Jackie and Sonny Fargo. This is Rough House Fargo.
And that's the suits. That's the outfits that I really loved with them. And look at those World Tag Champion belts. Those are really cool looking belts. This is a photo that probably was taken and has since been, I guess, and I won't say AI, but it's been enhanced.
Enhanced, yes. I think so too. Chris, I'm asking, my memory, I'm 64 years old, and sometimes I forget. I saw Rough House Fargo at the Mid-South Coliseum several times, and we have a special guest on the show in the shot with Michael Ray. Now, how much did Rough House, Chris, come to Jonesboro?
Oh, see, I only remember once or twice. That's all I remember.
Good picture there. And
now, I'm sure he may have come more than that, but I'm talking about now. I don't remember Rough House in like that circumstance as much as I do later when he was doing all the crazy, the crazy stuff. He wasn't ever like, I don't remember him in this mode here. It was later on.
Yeah, no, I don't remember. I remember him only, Michael, as referee Sonny Fargo in the Carolinas or Rough House Fargo. I never, like Chris says, and Chris, if I like your point there, as a world champion wrestler with his brother, I never remember. You?
When I first started watching wrestling in the mid-'60s, earlier than probably 63, 64, when I first started watching it here in Huntsville, Jackie and Sonny Fargo were on top in Nick's territory. But they were heels. I mean, they weren't baby faces; they were heels. And Fargo, they the Fargo strut and everything was sort of a, show it, put it in your face kind of there. There's Lynn Rossi. The one thing I noticed, and when you look at that picture of Fargo's of Jackie and Don, makes me wonder, they came out of New York in Madison Square Garden, and there was another blonde tag team up there at the time. and they were pretty hot up there. And I guess they were the surviving team of Dr. Jerry and Eddie Graham, the Graham brothers. And they outfitted themselves very similar to what the Fargos did.
And the Fargos were banned for life in New York. That's why they left. They were over and drew money. They were banned for life for causing a riot.
That's the story then.
Antonio Rocca
and
Miguel Perez.
Miguel Perez and Antonio Rocca and the Fargos. Yeah. Remember, New York was a very, that was the thing about Vince Sr. And even prior to him, New York's a very ethnic market. So you had wrestlers that represented each ethnic group. And Antonio Rocca represented the Italians, Miguel Perez, the Puerto Ricans. I mean, New York's a melting pot. And
then later on, it was Bruno Sammartino. And after that, it was Pedro Morales.
Pedro Morales, San Martino, Ivan Putski, the Polish Power. I mean, all the groups in New York were represented. And, normally the Caucasians, and especially the blonde, brash Caucasians, were the heels against the baby faces who represented the ethnic areas of New York.
Don Garner asked a question, and my knowledge of Memphis wrestling is real good. Memphis wrestling, the whole territory, not so much. Michael's got that end down pretty pat. He says, do any of us remember a guy named Buddy Chandler? Thinking back to the 70s, would have loved to hear any stories or memories. I don't know Buddy Chandler. Michael, can you make the save here?
I wish I could. I don't recognize that name.
Now, we will finish up real quick our pictures of the week, as we wanted to redo the pictures. We didn't show these last week, but the pictures of Jackie Fargo, I wanted to do it with Chris and Michael on the show today. Lynn Rossi was a great talent, and we will show. I'll let you introduce this picture. Early days of the Freebirds and your buddy there, Michael.
Harry Thornton with Freebird Terry Gordy and Pretty Boy Michael Hayes. And this was when they were starting their meteoric rise. And boy, they got hot in the Nashville end. And then next thing you knew, they were in Memphis.
They didn't.
Jerry gave them more money, and they split for Memphis.
Terry was like 16 years old right there.
Amazing tag team. This is Nick Goulas and Roy Welch and Buddy Fuller, I believe.
Absolutely. Now, everybody's heard me tell the story. Jerry Lawler's first tag team partner was Jim White. Jim White was fired by Jerry Jarrett, so they had to put a new tag team partner in to team with Jerry Lawler, with Sam Bass, the manager. Do you remember, Chris, who this was? What the Math Man was called?
I should know, but I do not.
It was Don Duffy, Michael, but the Scorpion.
I don't think this team lasted very long.
No, in some of the towns around the Memphis area, it was Don Bass. I love this picture because in the Power Pro days, we had Mae Young as an older Mae Young. Certainly everybody remember Mae Young as the older lady with the fabulous moolah in the Attitude Era of the WWE. This is the great Mae Young, lady wrestler, as the United States champion. Do you remember Mae Young?
Oh, absolutely. I remember her as an older woman, but this picture has to go back to the early 50s, I would think, because she, if I'm not mistaken, did Mae Young wrestle in 7 or 8 different decades?
Yes. Yes. For a long time. Went through a table in the WWE days at close to 90 years old. What a great wrestler this is. Need I say more? Bob Armstrong got over in Memphis, got over in Knoxville, got over everywhere he went, including Southeastern and Continental and Georgia Championship Wrestling. What a remarkable wrestling talent.
Absolute matriarch of the Armstrong family, without a doubt. When he made his debut in Birmingham, he was sort of a unique wrestler because he had such a great body. He was a bodybuilder and could work like all get out. So he was sort of an anomaly to what Nick Goulis, Roy Welch normally put in the ring, and he got over real fast. Note on this picture, the belt that he is wearing around his waist was used in the latter days when I was involved as the Southern Junior Heavyweight Championship belt.
Yes.
And I want to say at the end of, it was the USWA or CWA, one of the promotions, Eric Embry had the belt and threw it in a trash can. And I pulled the belt out, and I had the belt for a while. And I think I lost the belt in the divorce. I think it went to my ex because I can't find the belt anymore. But I pulled it out of the trash can. But it was the great thing about it, the plates to the left and right of the main figure in the middle had the names engraved of the champions up until a certain point. And there was some very historic names on there. Tex Riley was on there. There were some really historic names on there. Lynn Rossi, of course. But that was the Southern Junior Heavyweight Championship belt.
Chris, quick thoughts on Bob Armstrong.
Well, he was like Dennis was the consummate heel. Bob was the consummate babyface. He was beloved, although they did turn him at one time, and it drew. He was beloved wherever he went, and he could talk.
Next picture, Michael, I'm going to let you tell us who this is.
Lorenzo Parenti on the right, and on the left is his tag team is Lorenzo Parenti, and help me out here.
Bobby Hart.
Yes, but Hart and Parenti.
Tell our friends, our audience, Team Hales, about the famous restaurant that Lorenzo had for many years in Nashville.
It was right there at the tunnel on Thompson Lane at Nolensville Road called Lorenzo's. And it was a home-style Italian, and you would get mounds of pasta. I mean, it was incredible. It was incredible. I think this was also taken at the here in Huntsville at the Madison County the Madison County Coliseum out on Holmes Avenue at the very end of Holmes Avenue and University. Now it's a Sam's Club, but I'm almost positive this was shot here in Huntsville. Lorenzo Parenti and Bobby Hart. What a team. That was a tough tag team, and one I don't think we've talked a lot about on this show.
Hello to Crazy Gail, and we're going through these pictures, and we have a couple more left. This is Tojo and Bobby eating together, and the final picture of this segment. And help us here. This is Sam Munchnick with some great world champions. Chris, I'm going to put you on the spot, starting left to right. Can you name them?
Okay, it's Ric Flair on the left. I'm going to have to think about the second one. Gene Kiniski, Dusty, Harley, Sam Munchnick. And I'm trying to think of the second one from the left. I should
Pat
know.
O'Connor.
O'Connor, yeah.
You're great.
So only thing missing here is Dory, Jack, and Terry, and you would have like the last, every one of the last traveling world champions.
If I'm not mistaken, this picture was taken at the retirement of Sam Munchnick in St. Louis at the Kiel Auditorium in the back. They had a big event for him. And because he talked about it when I had lunch with him, he talked about that event and having all the champions back together again.
Man, wasn't that a fantastic picture?
I love it. I agree with Coach, though. Those three that you talk about, that would be a Mount Rushmore plus if you had those other three in there.
Well, it'd be like the last probably 8 or 9 traveling world champions all together.
Well, you'd have to have Funk, Terry Funk, and Dory Jr., and then, of course, Jack Briscoe. Yeah. Wow. Pretty incredible.
I mean, I think that's a big deal that the fans today don't get. Like, whoever's the WWE World Champion, whatever, when the NWA or AWA, whichever, because I consider Nick a world champion. He was a world champion. When those guys quit being champions, carrying the belts and traveling, that was the true world champion days then, in my opinion.
You know what I think changed that was Channel 17 Wrestling and TBS, the Superstation, because it was an attraction to see the world heavyweight champion when they come to town. It was an attraction to see Andre the Giant when he came to town. And even Dusty Rhodes, I think, became an attraction, which people that normally didn't come to the weekly shows would show up to see the world champion, to see Andre the Giant, to see perhaps Dusty Rhodes or a big time star. When all that got national on Channel 17 on Saturdays, that all changed because the world champion was in your face every week. So that star power, even though they were known, their face on TV made them known more worldwide, the star power of the draw in the territories went down.
So,
absolutely.
So I say this about I always compare racing to territory wrestling. Racing was bigger and had bigger stars when we only heard of them. Or we read about them in the newspaper. When I was a kid, I read the after mags. So when I heard about them in the after mags, and then Eddie Marley came out and said, next week, so-and-so's, oh my God, that guy's going to be here. He was bigger than life. Well, then you got cable. You could just turn on any channel and see them all. But hearing about them word of mouth made them bigger than seeing them.
And I think going back to when Hogan, when the rise of Hulkamania, I think was almost a backlash of all that, exposure on TV, because Hulk Hogan was not the world's greatest wrestler, but he was one hell of a big attraction. And he circumvented the fact that he was on TV every week, because him being the big as he was and the look that he had and the kids and all that stuff made him a cartoon character. And I think he drew more as a cartoon character when he would be in different cities on the circuit than he did as a world champion.
Yes, I agree for that. Now, I'm Randy Hills with Chris Ellis. Appreciate Chris coming in this week and talking about Dennis Condry. Michael, great to have you on the show again today. And sorry we had production problems with Adam. And I think that I've flown by. I can't think of too many screw ups I've had so far, but I've missed Adam. He is traveling, I think, and I'm not sure, but he obviously had connection problems, and Pat obviously had connection problems. I appreciate everybody watching the show, and I hope you enjoyed it. I wanted to explain something because what I do is inside baseball type of thing. I start searching for photos and searching for videos, usually Wednesday, Thursday, every week, and usually have it all typed out and ready to go on Saturday, Sunday at the latest. And I email everybody that's going to be on the show notes so they'll know where we're going. Some people look at it, some people don't look at it, but at least I am prepared. Now, as a TV creator and a producer, sometimes when you have, as you're doing a show, you've done the show, even though there's a lot of content left on the show. However, there's a couple of more things that I want to do. However, I had made the executive decision. We did part 1 of the Smoky Mountain USWA Feud last week, and we've got about 30 minutes of video that I have to show you on part 2 of that feud. That just classic stuff. Didn't get to all of it last week, but we'll save that for next week. One thing that happened after we found out the sad demise and death of the great Dennis Condry, I wanted to spend the majority of this show talking about Dennis Condry and showing whatever video that I could find that we could not steal it from somebody else's. So I've kind of made that decision. So a couple of more things that I want to do, and then wrap up on Dennis Condry and final thoughts for them. Guys, I don't know if you heard about it or not, but there was news today in the world of wrestling. And there's a lot of news coming up in the WWF, a lot of speculation, a lot of talk about WrestleMania coming up, the latest WrestleMania ever. And so a lot of news. Apparently they have reduced ticket prices of WrestleMania, and they had in Las Vegas. This came out last week or two or 3 weeks ago that they made a blackout in bars and clubs and that sort of thing of WrestleMania, where the bars, because people come to Vegas to go to bars as well, and all kinds of bars showed it last week and paid a big fee, but they did a blackout where they wouldn't going to let them do it, and they raised the prices that the people didn't buy, or they were way down. I'm not saying they didn't sell any tickets. They were way down from where they were at this point. However, WrestleMania is later this year, and they've really picked it up, and they have announced more stuff. The two feature situations is Roman Reigns and CM Punk, and of course the Randy Orton Cody Rhodes match. So more coming up, but there was news unrelated to WrestleMania that came out today, and I want to go to Triple H's. Michael, get your glasses on. This is Triple H's tweet that he tweeted today, and here is broadcasting legend Michael St. John to read this text.
Well, no matter which moniker you knew him by, Sid's intensity, talking about Sid Vicious, was palpable across the ring, throughout and through your TV screen. A multi-time champion in WWE and WCW and a two-time WrestleMania main event. It is a pleasure to announce that he will take his rightful place in the 2026 legacy class of the WWE Hall of Fame.
And this is the picture that they put out today. And so any thoughts at all? I'm always sad when, and I've done it with the Memphis Wrestling Hall of Fame at times, because you have people in mind and you just don't think they're going to die, especially at the age Sid Vicious is. But certainly thoughts. I'll start with you, Chris. Sid Vicious and the WWE Legacy Hall of Fame.
Well, I think it's great. He was a sensational athlete for his size. Actually played softball against Sid before. But also, Randy, being from Arkansas, I think he may be the first Arkansan in the WWE Hall of Fame.
You know, I can't think of anybody.
Yeah, because King's from Memphis. So I think Sid will be the first Arkansan ever inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame if you're from the state of Arkansas. But he was a specimen, man. He was a big dude. I remember he was catching, playing softball. He was on a knee, and I'm batting, and he and I are the same height. He's down on one knee catching, and I'm looking at him face to face. Now, I'm only Bill Dundee's height. I know I'm not a very big guy, but, I mean, you walk up there, and I remember making the joke, if we have a bench clearing fight tonight, I don't have the catcher. I got somebody else. I mean, he was a massive man.
That is a funny story. One of the things as I'm talking about producing this show, we also, sometimes I don't think we do it as much. I've tried to do a pretty good job of it today, but I've missed some people, and I appreciate every single one of you guys making comments. And Gary says, do you remember how big Tommy Wildfire Rich was on TBS Wrestling? And yes, I do. When I first started watching TBS Wrestling on the Superstation, Michael, the baby faces I remember from the get-go was three. The three baby faces were hot, and because he was a young baby face, of course, and somebody that I personally knew, I was partial toward Tommy Wildfire Rich. I think the three biggest baby faces of that era on TBS Wrestling, and Michael and Chris, getting your input for that, I say Dusty Rhodes, Bob Armstrong, and Tommy Rich. Your thoughts, Michael?
I think you have to include Mr. Wrestling too, Johnny Walker.
Oh, you're certainly right.
Yeah, I would definitely do that. Armstrong, yes, without a doubt. Dusty, remember Dusty was in and out between Florida and Georgia. So, I mean, you know, that was sort of a running kind of thing. But absolutely, I would definitely include wrestling too in that triumphant. But absolutely true. I think the great thing about the phenomenon of Tommy Rich in Atlanta is Tommy Rich was good in Memphis. He got to Atlanta, and he was such a good-looking baby face that all the girls were like, they went crazy over him. And Jim Barnett or whoever was running it at the time had the wherewithal to say, this guy's got charisma, this guy can work, this guy can talk, push him. And they did. And he became world champion. So, I'm anxious to read Tommy's book. I think it's coming out pretty soon if it's not out already. And I'm really anxious to read Tommy's book.
Especially if he tells the truth. That might cause legal problems. Who knows?
Well, right? I just started Liza Minnelli's book, and it's pretty shocking too. So anyway, but I'd love to read it.
Do you have any thoughts on the TBS subject, Chris?
Oh no, I thought you hit them on the head, and I just held up two when you were naming yours, and because of wrestling too. They loved wrestling too in Atlanta for whatever reason. Like, I wasn't a great wrestling 2 fan because I was a Masked Superstar guy. So, I wanted.
You are Nasty Hill. Cut him off.
Oh yeah. Hey, but tell you what, thanks to Randy, and Randy Hales has done a lot of things for me as a friend. But because of Randy Hales, I got to meet Bill Eadie, and I got to sit by him for an hour and just talk to him. Man, it was like a great thrill because what a great guy. Now, when I was a kid watching him wrestle, I'd have never thought he was a great guy. But man, what a great guy. It was such an honor to meet him and talk to him. And they're going in the Hall of Fame too, by the way.
Demolition, absolutely.
Yeah, Barry Darsow, yeah.
Absolutely. This show is an hour and 36 minutes into the show, and this show today is certainly dedicated to the memory of the greatest tag team heel wrestler of all time, the founder of the Midnight Express, Dennis Condrey. Dennis Condrey was born February the 1st, 1950, passed away Friday, March the 20th, 2026. He had been married for 27 years. I encourage everybody to go to Jim Cornette's podcast and listen to his tribute on the great Dennis Condrey, who we lost at 76 years old. And it'd be hard for me to say, guys, a better, if I could, I don't know if I could think of a better tag team or wrestler, and if I came close, because look at Dennis Condrey and Phil Hickerson, Dennis Condrey and David Schultz, Dennis Condrey, Randy Rhodes and Norvell Austin, Dennis Condrey and Bobby Eaton. But at the same time, you have to say that Bobby Eaton was also a great tag team wrestler. One of my favorite tag teams of all times. I'm not saying I think they were any better than Hickerson and Condrey, but I love Sweet Brown Sugar and Beautiful Bobby Eaton, Coco Ware and Bobby Eaton. I really did. Dennis and Bobby, I think, is the best group of the Midnight Express, and I'm a Stan Lane friend and fan, and that was a great tag team. We're going to just go through some of these, backtrack on some of these pictures, and we'll start back with you, Michael, as I'll just skim through these pictures as I'm asking for last take thoughts on the career, the talent, the human being that was Dennis Condrey, and we'll start with Michael.
Well, Dennis Condrey, again, was true to himself, was a great worker and a good human being and a good person. And I think he is going to be remembered not only as the founding father of the Midnight Express, but the driving force behind the Midnight Express. Cornette was the mouth, Condrey was the enforcer, and Eaton could work his head off. And, it was mad. It was pure magic. I wonder, and I'm anxious to hear Jimmy Cornette's take on Dennis, because at sort of the height of their career or the height of their fame, he left. He said, "I'm done," and he walked out of the Midnight Express. And of course, Stan Lane was the replacement. But I always wondered if there was some kind of rub, or was it an issue personal with home or something? Because really, they were making tons of money. They were making a lot. They were making as much merch money at that point as they were probably making ring money. And all of a sudden, he just left the team. And I'm wondering what was the instigation of that?
I will answer that the way Jim Cornette answered that. Jim Cornette says none of our business.
Really?
He said, and Chris watched the Jim Cornette picture. He said it wasn't drug related, and I think he said that it wasn't money related, but he said that he just disappeared in the middle of the night, and he didn't seem for 3 years he reformed with Randy Rhoads as the Midnight Express, and they did that angle. But he said for up in time until the time they started doing the Fan Fest, he said he and Bobby didn't know. He said that he basically said that they were told then when they started going to these Fan Fests, and he said it's none of anybody's business. It affected the three of us, and it's going to stay with the three of us. And so I would love to have the scoop. And I bet if I asked Cornette, he wouldn't tell me. I think it's one of those personal things.
It sounds that way. And Jimmy is the only one that knows now, because the other two parts of the Midnight Express are no longer with us on Earth. And so Jimmy will take that to his grave. And I can respect that, in this day and time that I think the public knows too damn much. There's too much quote unquote media out there that's not media. It's ugly guys in shorts in mama's basement thinking they're journalists and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then with F-book and all that crap that gets out there that's not true to begin with. And I just think I respect privacy. I respect privacy with my family. I respect privacy with my business. I respect privacy with you guys. And I think there are a lot of people out there that have forgotten about the word privacy. And if they hear gossip or rumor or innuendo or whatever the case may be, they're going to blurt it out there. And I take offense to that. I'm going to quote my dad 3 days before he passed away in the hospital. I picked him up at Huntsville Hospital from the last visit he made there. And my daughter, Jamie, had turned him on to a thing in 2005 that she was big on and showed him MySpace. And Dad had just gotten a computer 6 months earlier, and she showed him MySpace. Well, my father worked for the Huntsville Times for Newhouse Publishing for 43 years. And he always taught us, my sister and I, that you don't put something out there unless you know what you're putting out there because of the consequences and who it affects. And that's part of, personal development. And he looked at MySpace and he told me, we were sitting and talking in the hospital parking lot. And he said, Michael, that will destroy society more so than anything else in our lifetime. Because in our business, talking about the newspaper business, before it went into print, Newhouse Publishing required not one, not two, but 3 bona fide certified references that cooperated with what was being printed. So if I did a story about Randy Hales before it ever hit the Huntsville Times, 2 other people had to read it, go over it, and make sure that everything I said about Randy Hales or anybody else was true. Then it went to press. In this day and time, on Facebook or Snapchat, or I call it Snatch Chat, but anyway, all those media, the social media things, you can say anything about me. I can say anything about you, put it out there on the internet, and everybody believes it, whether it's true or not. And that to me has destroyed the credibility of journalism. And a lot of the credibility of what we're talking about right now historically speaking, with great athletes like a Dennis Condry, as his legacy will be continued to be told.
Good thoughts, real good thoughts. Chris, before we get your final thoughts on Dennis Condry, this might make you a little jealous because up to this point, to when I saw Frank Seaton, by the way, Frank Seaton's mother was my English teacher at Annie Camp Junior High School. So Frank is a Jonesboro High School guy. He's older than me. Younger than Michael, but older than me, and certainly I'm older than you. But Frank says, and I've found another Jonesboro person, that their favorite wrestler is the Masked Superstar. So you have something in common with him. So Dennis Condry, I think we had just a tremendous show today, just tremendous. Little technical problem because I didn't know the first. We were on for 5 minutes before I realized Adam wasn't producing because he had us on the air. He got us on the air, but then then he finally sent a message and said, "I can't do nothing." I thought, "Oh," so here we go. But Chris, wrap up the Dennis Condry story and your final take, and any final thoughts, any what's new with you, what's new coming up next week, what's going on as we wrap this show up tonight.
Well, as I said, and I've said again, the greatest tag team wrestler who ever lived, in my opinion. And I think the list of teams you mentioned earlier, but the values, the professionalism, the craftsmanship, the seamlessness, as Jim Cornette mentioned, I think that all identifies with Dennis. But Michael said something, and something I value as a leader. The number one thing I look for in people is self-awareness. But the number two thing I look for in people is loyalty. And Jim Cornette and I probably don't agree on a lot because he says a lot of stuff that he and I are on the same page with. But I'll give him credit for this. He's loyal to Dennis and Bobby, and he's taken that to his grave, whatever it was, none of anybody's business. I admire and respect that quality about anybody because that is lost in our world today. My former players will tell you the number one way to get you out of the family is to be disloyal. You don't talk about your teammates. I don't care if he's going through a divorce, whatever he's at. You don't do that. Loyalty means everything. Just like you guys, the four of us. What goes on here when we're off screen, what's talked about, just like RH, things that we've talked about, Michael, things we've talked about, it don't get shared. It don't. Loyalty. It's a dying art. And Dennis and Bobby and Jim all had that. Last thing I'll say is I'm a huge fan. I had the utmost respect for him as a performer. I want to send my condolences to his wife and family and friends. And my other hero, Phil Hickerson, my thoughts are with you too because you lost one of your partners.
Very good thoughts there. Chris, do you have anything going on in the next few days? I know this is spring break week for all the educators, all the students.
Yeah, well, I've been my custodial maintenance staff will work a full day again tomorrow. And then luckily for me, okay, I know the audience probably knows I got married like 2 years and 3 months ago. So now I get my wife says I didn't read the fine print. So I get to do honeydew jobs. So we did the yard work at the house here in town Saturday. And so tomorrow afternoon, I get to do the yard work at the farm. So whatever Kimberly wants me to do the rest of the week, I'm hired. So there we go.
What do you have going on? What's Joshua doing? How's Melanie? Give us an update on your life.
Well, Joshua's doing great playing baseball now and is in a coach pitch and is doing much better than T-ball. I'm really proud of him. He's taking to that pretty cool. And tonight we were talking. We've got some family discussions about our daughter at Alabama and whether she's going to remain there and grade wise and all that stuff, and some hard love going on. And Papa was making a point at the dinner table, and Joshua is like, when I was growing up, I always sat to the right of my grandpa at the dinner table, and that's Joshua's spot. So I'm going off and I'm railing about it. And he puts his hand on my shoulder. Remember, he's almost 7, puts his hand on my shoulder and he says, Pawpaw, settle down. It's going to be okay. And that's the first time he's ever done that. So that was sort of very special today. And I needed him over here tonight, and he's upstairs visiting Xbox. That's why he hadn't been down. But sometimes you need that. But they came from the right source at the right time. Pawpaw, it's, that was very special, very special. But other than that, we're making some progress at the radio station on a couple of things and a couple of arenas. We're actually starting to talk about football. I will never replace Ronnie Shoemate as my color commentator for 28 years with Arabian Night Football on Friday nights and Coach's Breakfast. But I have found an individual that I think will be very good in that spot, sort of revamping all that. We're going to make it public next week in the newspaper and let everybody know around here, because, the listeners, the people that have been part of our football family for 28 years have wondered where we're going. And it's a chance, whereas you never recreate that magic you had with that team you had. And Chad Robertson, who worked with us for 16 of those years, has decided that with Ronnie gone, it's time for him to step aside. And I put together, we're going to do a 3-man crew. And get over here. Come here. Somebody wants to say hello. Guess who just walked in here at the close?
Okay.
I just quoted you on TV, brother. There he is.
Hey, Joshua.
Hi, Joshua.
Say hi to everybody.
Hey.
You know why he's down here? Let me tell you why he's down here. I'm gonna stooge him off right here. I got
to leave.
You got to leave. Well,
yes.
You know what's back here.
I know exactly.
You guys know what these are?
No.
I bet you will when I show them to you. When you were a kid, I know when I was a kid, these were some of my favorite things to get at the convenience store or at the drugstore. These are called Nip Nips.
I never had one.
They have like a juice in them, which is really colored water and sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And he's into his Nip Nips. And I guarantee you, before he leaves, he's got to have one. But anyway, thanks for stopping by, big guy.
Yeah.
How do you like baseball?
Good.
Good. Tell them what shirt you're wearing.
I can't wait.
They can't see it. Step back towards there you go. You see what that is? What team is it?
The Yard Goats.
The Hartford Yard Goats.
Yard Goats.
The Yard Goats, the Hartford Yard Goats, Class A baseball, Hartford, Connecticut. Of course, I programmed WTIC up there, and somebody sent me this a while back, but he's wearing his Yard Goats T-shirt.
We had great response from everybody tonight on Talking Memphis Wrestling. Could not do this show without people that support this show, watch this show, promote this show. We appreciate it. Joshua was in the house. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let me get my official microphone. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Joshua has left the building. For Pat Trammell, Adam Dunn, Chris Ellis, and Michael St. John, my name is Randy Hales, and we are out of here until next week, as we'll try again to finish up the Smoky Mountain USWA feud. Until then, good night, everybody, and here we go.
Talking Memphis Wrestling with Randy Hales is now streaming live on Fun Media at fun927.com and is always on Facebook, YouTube, X, Twitch, and at TV5wrestling.com.